Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this edition of Benchmark, Ravi Dahanayake is our guest on Spotlight today. We talk to the director and CEO of LANKA Supermarkets about Sri Lanka's retail sector. Then, LMD columnist and market analyst Hasitha Premaratne discusses how changes at the SEC impact investor confidence. And finally, Kiran H, country manager of TNS Lanka, evaluates the results of a nationwide poll on judicial independence in Sri Lanka. That's the lineup for Benchmark.
Hello and welcome to Benchmark, the big picture business program. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. Since the 1980s, supermarkets in Sri Lanka have evolved considerably from small establishments that offered consumers products and services under one roof to a much wider variety where we even have hypermarkets now, and there are pharmacies and banking counters where people can actually even pay their utility bills if they want to at supermarkets. Now, to provide an insider's perspective here on Benchmark is the Director and CEO of LANKA Supermarkets, Ravi Dahanayake. Welcome to Benchmark, Ravi. Nice to have you on the show.
Nice to hear you.
To set the landscape for our interview, could you just give me a brief overview of the state of the local retail sector and supermarkets in particular?
Well, talk about the supermarkets, retail sector. Retail is, as you know, all about buying in bulks and selling in
smaller
quantities. That's all about, and today that's the end user. There are about over 600 supermarkets in Sri Lanka today, inclusive of the Satosa outlets, the government-sponsored Satosa outlets. That's called the modern trade. The other trade is the general trade, where you get the ordinary grocery shops, and we have a distinguished difference in the product and quality service from the supermarkets. There are about 5 leading supermarket chains and also standalone supermarkets in Sri Lanka. When I say standalone, what I mean is the ordinary general trade grocery shops are converting and developing into supermarket style shops. So those also become standalone supermarkets. Supermarkets generally thrive on lifestyle improvements, people's per capita income.
You know, Budget 2013 slapped both VAT and nation building tax on trading businesses with a turnover of over 500 million rupees. How is this impacting supermarkets in general, and also how much of this is actually being passed on to the consumer?
Well, Savitri, that's a very interesting question. I think I should put the record straight in this whole issue. We modern traders, that the supermarketeers, do pay ESC and the NBT at the moment. And now with the latest budget, we were thrust upon to pay the VAT on a threshold of 500 million per quarter. I must particularly say that this was, we were shocked actually, the retailers, the modern traders were shocked, because moreover the Satosa, government-sponsored Satosa, were not coming under the 500 million threshold. So it was a direct hit to the main 5 supermarket chains. Though the largest supermarket chain is handled by the government, that's the Satosa, they have over 230 supermarkets, I suppose. We were shocked, terribly, I would say, disturbed on the business. We were wondering whether we could continue. But I must say, with all gratitude and sincerity and gratitude, the supplying companies, our stakeholders, major supplying companies, then the small cottage cottage industry suppliers, all came in, and they ate the VAT by themselves. They took it on and saved the modern trade industry. If not, there would have been a severe loss of employment, severe loss of business revenue to the country, because we wouldn't have survived. Thanks to our suppliers, both large and small. They took it head on. After much, we negotiated with them, and they were very generous in taking that to their account, thinning their margins and saving the consumer. So we have not passed that to the consumer.
Now, nevertheless, operational costs are continuing to rise, whether we like it or
Absolutely.
not. How are supermarkets actually reacting to the pressure on margins?
Yeah, well, to be precise, the electricity is going up, wage bill is going up. From last year to this year, the wage bill has gone up by 18%. The electricity had gone up by about 21%, and another hike is in the offing. So Savitri, we have jumped into the water now. We have to swim or get sunk. There is no other way. So we are very aggressively and ambitiously trying to expand our business, so that we would be able to trade very judiciously with our suppliers for better margins, high quantity of sales and better margins. So that's the only way out, because supermarkets thrive on very thin margins. A lot of people may say they are littered, air conditioned, comfort, all that. You see, it's a general, in short, it's a ordinary grocery shop that our villagers operate in style, with air conditioned comfort, illuminated, all that. The MRP for the ordinary grocery shop, maximum retail price for the ordinary grocery shop and the supermarket are the same. We are governed by regulations. So we will not be able to, have extra margin or whatever, as people would think, but we work on volumes.
Okay, so how do you respond to the debate or the question that supermarkets are resorting to anti-competitive practices, for instance, discouraging small-scale manufacturers? In fact, there are rumors that supermarkets even levy something like as high as 25% to have a product on their shelves. So things like that, that supermarkets themselves have an unfair advantage over traditional trading outlets.
No, there is no unfair advantage, Savitri. If you take a packet of LANKA, grocery shop will get 7.5%, we will get 7.5%. Well, that's the max that we can get. How about the service that we offer compared to the traditional business? They don't offer air conditioned comfort, quality of product, high quality of product, availability of products. You can touch, feel and buy your product. If you go to, that's a lifestyle improvement for that matter. So there is no unfair trading at all. I totally deny and I do not agree with that, because the product and quality that we provide as against the traditional business is much ahead.
Time to pause for commercials. On the other side, Ravi Dahanayake discusses quality of service, regulatory constraints, as well as the future of the retail sector in Sri Lanka. Don't go away.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
Welcome back to Benchmark. We now continue with our exclusive interview with the Director and CEO of LAF Supermarkets, Ravi Dahanayake. Ravi, how have supply chain efficiencies actually been incorporated into the supermarket or retail sector?
Oh, very much. We have direct access to the grower, direct access to the cottage industry, so that we try to deviate from the middlemen. So much so, Savitri, I must tell you, the price and the quality that we offer alone speaks for itself, that the supply chain have been very successful. If not, we will not be able to produce and offer at such good prices, competitive prices. As again, there is no difference between the ordinary grocery shop and a supermarket, despite the fact that we have high overheads. So that means the supply chain is intact and very effective.
Now, how would you rate the quality of service that's offered by our modern retail sector?
I would say good and exceptional, I would say.
So you think they're true brand ambassadors for what they
Absolutely, because if not, most of the supermarkets would have had a natural death. If not, that's what I believe. So much so, now say, if you take, I talk about my company, Laughs. I have gone up to the extent of displaying my mobile number in every supermarket, just above the cashier point. They call me at 10:30 in the night, 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes sometimes they tell me that I left my umbrella in your supermarket.
Looking at the service ethic in this country, how good, bad or ugly is it?
We are good, but it has to be improved a lot, because sometimes one bad dig can spoil the entire name of the supermarket. I have had that experience.
Now, frontline staff, undoubtedly they need to be trained.
Yeah.
But the training may not necessarily be confined to the knowledge of products and the knowledge of the brands. And don't you think it should also go into grooming, mannerisms, attitudes, things like that? Now, is there enough being done?
Attitude, yes. Now, say, to be precise, I must tell you, we were the first to start 6-month certificate course with the government-sponsored Technical College of Maradana to groom our people. The first batch is coming out in May, and they are training. And we have had numerous other training programs to improve attitude. That's the biggest issue that we have today, because I remember at one point I did a write-up in the Daily Mirror. I got down Daily Mirror staffer, and then I wanted to photograph a coconut scraping girl in one of my supermarkets. That came out in the paper, and I apparently told my office to send that photograph laminated to that girl at that particular outlet. She saw the photograph, instantly she howled, shouted, and tendered resignation and went. And what she had told was that we had not come here to scrape coconut, and I don't want my people, my parents, my relations to see that I am scraping coconuts in Colombo. You see, these are attitude problem, as I told you. Sri Lanka, we will do any type of slavery off the show, not within our show.
So on that note, obviously retaining staff can be quite challenging.
Very challenging. You see, at one point we recruited 57 staff and 56 left. Not the same.
Is that after training?
No. I mean, whilst it's going on. I mean, you have to train in batches. Your supermarkets cannot be closed and then you have to train in batches, say 3 people or 4 people from one outlet. There are about 30, 25, 30 depending on the size of the supermarket. So, whilst the training and the processes are going on, these type of things happen.
So what do you think we can do to actually address and keep your employees, or keep the general modern retail sector employees in one place, retain them actually?
You see, Savitri, now this retail business, there is no, as I told you, there is no entry barrier for any person to open up a supermarket. There is no entry barrier. Similarly, it's a new sector. Modern trade is a new sector. There is no paper qualification requirements that is needed to work in a supermarket. Just a 8th grade or 10th grade standard, that's more than enough. So there is no value to this job. They think that it's a lower end of any profession, a labor type, I would say. So that's why they don't want to continue. But there are people who have come up through the supermarket chain. They have become managers, executives, assistant managers, and they are in very good form. I mean, they are very well looked after by the company because we groom them. People who came as in that level are groomed to become managers. So we have so many. So they take pride of their job. There are certain people who take pride of their job, and also we must inculcate in the minds of the employee that a job is not merely a paycheck.
Thank you, Ravi. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Savitri. Thank you so much for having me here. Pleasure.
That was Ravi Dahanayake, Director and CEO of LAF's Supermarkets, chatting with us on Benchmark. On the other side, talking to us about the ups and downs of the Colombo Bourse, we have market analyst and LMD columnist Hasitha Premaratne, and to give us more details about the LMD TNS survey, we have Country Manager of TNS Lanka, Kiran H.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC. Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
Hello and welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Anushan Selvaraja, and with me now is market analyst and LMD columnist Hasitha Premaratne with the latest on the bourse. Now, Hasitha, we have seen another SEC Director General tendering his resignation, citing similar reasons as to what was given by those who preceded him. Now, how does this reflect on our stock market? How can there be confidence when regulators keep changing like this?
Yeah, I think we've had this situation maybe a few times, a little different. Maybe the head of the institution resigned a couple of times in a bit of a disturbing manner. And this time it's not really the head of the institution, but maybe second in command or the main executive who was involved in the day-to-day running of the institution. Well, I think either way, when such changes happen, it hurts the investor confidence, there's no doubt about that. And also at a time when there was an effort to really turn the tables around, and there was some conscious work that was going on, this kind of an incident coming out probably was a little disappointing. But having said that, I think always, not only in Sri Lanka, wherever in the world you will find this kind of situation, what is important is that the regulators look at these issues that have been happening and try to correct them as much as possible as we move on, rather than just trying to sort of keep repeating the same issue, which definitely hurts investor confidence and the broader market and the investor, particularly the foreign side, the foreigners, when they look at Sri Lankan market as an investment destination.
Hasitha, what is your advice to investors looking at the months ahead?
Yeah, if you look at the market volatility that we have seen in this year, basically the index has moved around 5,600 to 5,850 range. It has been kind of a wider range relatively compared to what it was few months back. And there has been some trading opportunities also, but broadly the investor sentiment has moved or shifted towards fundamentally sound counters, which we haven't seen for some time in the market. So the blue chips have taken a center stage, and most of the banking sector counters, the diversified stocks, have been in center of investor attention. And I think that sentiment is likely to continue down the road, maybe in the next few months as well. So I think what is important is that my investors should keep looking at market corrections, which can happen time to time, obviously because of profit taking or because of some other macroeconomic news, etc. Investors should look at accumulating some of these stocks which we talk about as good fundamental value counters, and maybe look at the market not just as a short-term trading platform only, but instead maybe as a more investment, we're looking at a horizon of maybe 2 to 3 years. What is important really is that you have a balanced portfolio. You should not overexpose yourself into equity, but have a sound, fundamentally sound equity portfolio backed by relatively, I won't say long term, but I would say some investments into fixed income instruments as well, because the rates look to be relatively steady at this stage, and maybe looking at about 12 to 15% for a one-year deposit looks to be reasonable.
What steps must the CSE take to maintain investor confidence in the market?
I think there are two things here. One is from a Colombo Stock Exchange point of view, there are certain things that they could do, and SEC is different, say regulator is different. Regulator has to act in a different manner. Obviously, the problems mostly have been around Securities and Exchange Commission, not around CSE. But broadly, I think there are two main things that need to be focused. One is that we have to keep looking at how the market trades happen, and no manipulation is allowed or no manipulation is tolerated. And whenever we find such situations, or we have adequate surveillance to identify those issues and address them immediately, that is one aspect of it. So strong regulatory framework is required on one side, but I think from a stock exchange point of view, ability to capture that information and monitor them and do a kind of a quick action to attack or counter it is important. Secondly, I think it has to be rolled out more through a continuous education program. We can see a lot of initiatives are going from stock exchange as well as from Securities and Exchange Commission towards that effect. But what is important is that not just the retailer who's a small time investor who's kind of being getting affected by these issues largely at the end of the day are being educated, but also the stock brokers who primarily interact with these small time investors and maybe do deals on behalf of them are the second crowd who need to be really taken through this path of investor education, and in terms of how it need to be structured and handled. So if the education aspect is planned out, rolled out over a period of time, there is no easy solution tomorrow, but it's a process that you have to build up looking at 2 to 3 years ahead. So a lot of good work is happening, there's no doubt about it, but I think it need to be more focused, more effective, and one of the places we have to keep attacking is the stockbrokers, because these are the people who really ultimately go and talk to the investors who are the small, even whether they are small timers or big timers. So that should give more stability from an investor perspective, and that's probably one of the roles that CSC should also initiate, apart from, of course, making sure that wrongdoers or the manipulators are being punished upfront without any favorations or any other influential issues without stopping them.
That was market analyst and LMD columnist Hasitha Premaratne. After a short commercial break, Nishu Hashim has the latest on the LMD TNS survey with the country manager of TNS Lanka, Kiran H. Stay tuned.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
Welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Nishu Hashim, and with me now is the country manager for TNS Lanka, Kiran H. Now Kiran, the impeachment of the former Chief Justice created major waves both internationally and locally. What did poll respondents have to say about this?
Going by the results of this poll, I don't think they are sure what to make of this exercise. 36% of whom we met felt that this was justified. A slightly higher proportion, 46%, felt that no, this was not justified, and the remaining telling, sorry, I don't know what to make of this exercise. So the one way of looking at it is enough number of responses indicating that maybe she was wrong, but the other set of responses, when you analyze it, seems to indicate that maybe what she did was wrong, but this entire impeachment process was not fair. A significant proportion of people are actually telling that there was a huge political influence in the way this entire thing was conducted, and it just doesn't reflect well at all. But on cases like this, I mean, see, opinion is bound to be divided because no one knows the truth. So it depends on what you want to believe.
Now, was the case against Dr. Bandaranaike justified, and what did respondents say about its impact on our country's image?
See, as I said, Nishu, on the opinion is very clearly divided. So when you ask people, was there a valid case against the Chief Justice, 51% mentioned that yes, there was a case. The rest of them are not sure or believe otherwise. But on the second question, whether did it impact the country's image, people by and large agree. Close to 60% of them agree that this has had a negative impact on the country's image and reputation, and they in fact are going a step further. They are not just on the image and reputation of Sri Lanka in the international community, but it gives one more reason for the rest of the world to add pressure onto the country and its proceedings, as if we didn't have enough on our plate already. And we have also seen how the international community has been very vocal about their criticism and the concern on this entire impeachment process.
Now, according to poll results, Kiran, is the judiciary independent of political interference?
No. 50% plus of whom we met believe that there is a lot of political interference, and only around less than 30% believe that judiciary is indeed independent. And this opinion cuts across all sections of the society, young, old, high income, low income, urban, rural, Colombo, outside Colombo. Across the board, they believe that there is political influence. And going by the results of some of the earlier polls too, I mean, generally there is perception that there is political interference across all sectors, so judiciary is no different.
That was Country Manager for TNS Lanka, Kiran H. Thank you for watching Benchmark, and we hope you enjoyed the show. See you again next time.